See that even in a wholesome desire, such as wanting to be more patient, there's still attachment, isn't there? There's still desire.
Like the critical mind, the thinking mind's a critical function. It's always, you've got to get more of this or get rid of that, this is good, this is bad. And that works on a worldly level, about conditioned phenomena. Because it has qualities, conditioned phenomena has qualities of beautiful, ugly, good, bad. But Dhamma isn't the condition. And that's, to realize Dhamma is the absence of suffering. But as long as your whole life you spend going out towards things, wanting the best, fearing the worst, and trying to, change yourself into the best person, and trying to control the environment, get the right government, the right society. These are all useful in terms of worldly knowledge, but they don't lead to liberation. Because the very nature of condition is to change, so you can't, if you have a stable government, it's not going to be stable all that. And you get married and your wife gets old, and then your children grow up and you don't know what's going to happen to them, so the future is the unknown, it's the potential, it's possibility. And then when you think of the future, then you don't know what, you might be in good health till you're 95, or you might have all kinds of physical possibilities are endless that you can create. But in the present moment, it's, even no matter what the state, the condition you're in, the physical body might be unhealthy or whatever, but you don't create suffering around sankharas. You know better, it's like you're not dismissing them, but you're not attaching to them. And this, the samsara vata, the world of creation, is it's beautiful, it's ugly, it's good and bad, right and wrong. But it's impermanent and it's illusion, it's not ultimate reality. So your aim through mindfulness is that's the gateway, the door to ultimate reality, which is here and now. So it's not something you've got to get, it's something you recognize, realize. So enlightenment is like realization, recognizing it's like this, rather than some kind of personal attainment. So you become much more. It's humbling. It's not that realizing Dhamma is not. It doesn't make you arrogant or think of yourself as better or worse than anyone else. But it's liberating, it's a relief to not be anybody, not feel you have to get something or get rid of things or control everything. Or that you can see in wealthy people, the kind of suffering that they have. wanting to control and losing control. As you get older, your ability to control things diminishes.
So I know that for many people, and certainly from the West, we think that the state that we were describing is boring. It's nothingness. No, it's no thingness.
Exactly. That's the beauty of that word, nothing and no thing in English. You say nothing, it sounds like it's worthless. But it's worthless, but it's priceless. You know, Dhamma is priceless. You can't buy it. There's no price. And the worldly mind thinks it's worthless. You can't sell it or you can't. You know, when you start out, you're thinking of enlightenment as some kind of personal attainment. You know, it's the ego wanting to become something better than what it is. But then through mindfulness, you become aware, like the first fetter, Sakya Ditti, the ego, you start questioning that. Rather than operating from the ego, like to meditate from the ego is one way, you know. I'm going to get concentration, I'm going to get these levels and attainments. That's operating from the ego position. But with Four Noble Truths, you're not operating from the ego, trying to get something, but observing suffering, cause of suffering, the end of suffering. So that's not an attainment. It's through relinquishing, through letting go rather than through achieving or attaining. So when you say attaining Nibbana, it doesn't quite make sense. Like the Buddha attained enlightenment, or he realized, you know, the Buddha realized Nibbana. Nibbana is here and now, it's not something, we just don't notice it. So it's not like you get it after years of hard work, but you recognize.
Scriptures talk of Nibbana as a transcendent experience.
Right, I think it's, this is where Lumpur Cha was so good, was he was, because in Thailand they raise Nibbana as a kind of transcendent super state. So it becomes high up rather than here and now. You know, like something, like suffering is something here and now. It's not high. And then Lumpur Cha kept talking about ordinariness. And in Thai, the Thai language, the ordinary, they use the word Dhammana, they use the word Dhamma. So, you know, even the Thai language, what's ordinary, what we translate as ordinary is Dhamma, here and now, Dhammana, ordinary. And if Nibbana is transcendent, then that in English it sounds high up beyond the world, and you know, in terms of the limitation of language, that's what you're stuck with, the idea of a transcendent reality that's separate from this, from the samsara water. But in mindfulness, it's not about transcending, it's about awakening, realizing, realization, reality. Here and now, like Dhamma is reality. It's not some kind of metaphysical abstraction in the thinking world, but it's here and now. So thinking for timeless. Try to think about timelessness. You can't. Your mind just can't conceive timelessness. Your thinking mind. Because the thinking mind is based on the past and the future. So even in the present, we live for the future. So this is what we're thinking. But as we're mindful, we see the suffering that we create through attachment to thought. Thinking is all right, but it's this attachment. It's trying to conceive everything, create images, have names, definitions for everything that we experience. So for this chair to be real, I have to conceive it as a chair. But it doesn't say anything. It doesn't say it's a chair. It's me saying it's a chair. And you start seeing what you're doing. I remember in England, walking meditation, John Grove. And I was in Amaravati, and I remember looking at the path, and I say, "This is England." This soil here, and then I suddenly, no, it doesn't say it's England. I'm saying it's England. This is Thailand. But this land here doesn't claim to be Thailand. It's we who say it is. And it's creation of words, thoughts, perceptions that we regard as the real world.
Some difficulty also arises from the dependent origination explained as Vijnana Nirodho, Sankhar Nirodho, Sanya Nirodho, Salayata Nirodho, Vedana Nirodho. So when you think in those terms, it gives a perception that the experience of, there is something called an experience of Nibbana, in which Vedana does not exist, Salayatan does not exist, Vijnana does not exist.
Yeah, but that's in the thinking process. In the reality, like Vijnana has no dimension, has no beginning or end. But its existence here and now.
So what does Vijnana Nirodha imply?
That's the sense of seeking reality through senses, through perception, through thinking, through senses. But when you let go of everything, when you let go of the sense, seeking sense objects, there's still mindfulness, consciousness. You don't disappear. You don't drop dead. So the Buddha, and the historical Buddha was enlightened. He was still conscious. And in the six elements, earth, fire, water, and air, and there's space and consciousness. Space is perception. So, you can see space, as pointed out, like space is here and now. And it's, the important aspect of this moment is if there was no space, we couldn't be here. And yet space is, we may not notice space at all. So just through seeing, pointing it out, you begin to observe space. And we think space is in the room, then we begin to see that the building is in space, the planet is in space. Space has no dimension, and its only reality is spaciousness. But it's still perception. Consciousness is not a perception. It's not perception.
It is subject.
So you can't get beyond consciousness. There's no kind of superior consciousness or a separate consciousness that is aware of consciousness as an inferior, but as one of the great teachers, Thai teachers used to say, consciousness, when we send our through the senses, we send consciousness out to objects, to what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, think, feel. We're sending it out, and that's the cause of suffering. Because we're consciousness itself, if we don't send it out when we're mindful, is peaceful. It's immortal. It doesn't begin and end. It has no quality other than knowing. It's not discriminating. It's not saying this is right or wrong, good or bad. But it's knowing. So consciousness informs sankharas, but it's not a sankhara. And so that's why with mindfulness you can be aware of sankhara. One sankhara can't know another. So like my right hand can't know my left hand. But awareness, I can be aware of both hands at the same moment. And thoughts, like we say, this is Thailand. That's a perception. We give it a name. And everybody agrees, internationally that this piece of land is Thailand. But it doesn't. So we believe in, then we fight over national boundaries and space and so forth through our own creations of conditions, through our ability to create conditions and believe in them as our reality. But then that's the cause of suffering. So when we send consciousness out through the senses, when we're always seeking objects, we're thinking, we're identifying with feelings, with sensitivity, with what we see, hear, smell, taste, what we eat, and so forth. Then we're caught in the samsara vata, the world of birth and death, which is changing and unsatisfactory. But anatta, or non-self, is consciousness.
What would Vedana Nirodho mean? When they say Vedana Nirodho, what would it, in your opinion, imply?
Means we still, this body's a Vedana, like a feeling, but we're no longer attaching to it. We're no longer identifying with it.
Because normally it is translated as cessation, so it means cessation of feeling.
It means that because the body's a sensitive form, and we attach to, we identify with the form, then we become, then if we have pain, we want to get rid of it. If we have pleasant sensation, we want to keep them. And this ceases. But then, so we, then in terms of the reality of here now, we can, we're dealing with people with chronic pain, problems with physical pain. They're using this mindfulness practice because, what's the suffering of is the resentment, wanting to get rid of pain. Fearing it. A lot of Whipple would desire to get rid of it and not have any more pain. But pain is the nature of this form. So it's, it's bearable. We can bear it, or we cannot create suffering around it. Like years ago in Thailand, I had malaria for a year, recurring attacks of malaria. And at first, I was living in a branch monastery, and the developing a lot of concentration practices. And then when I had malaria, I couldn't concentrate. So Ajahn Chah came to visit me one day, and I was complaining, saying I can't practice meditation anymore because I have this disease, malaria. And he said, malaria is your meditation. So suddenly I realized, I kind of recognized that I started just contemplating the realities that I was experiencing through the body with malaria. And I realized that they're okay. I could bear with the actual discomfort. And then these malarial cycles, they reach a peak, and then they kind of break, and then there's this kind of refreshing feeling of coolness. This is the pleasant side of malaria. and I stopped thinking about getting samadhi, or my practice that I had before, which I was very, dedicated to achieve. And then when I couldn't do that, and the conditions changed, and I couldn't concentrate like that because of the physical situation, the physical discomfort. Just by changing my attitude towards the disease, I didn't find it that I was suffering from it. I could bear it. I learned from it. I could learn from it. Like in Paticca Samuppada, Nirodha is non-attachment. It's not annihilation. So, like Sankhara Nirodha, Vijnana Nirodha, it means like when there's mindfulness, then there's Nirodha. There's non-attachment. And then because, both on the level of Vedana, physical Vedana, mental anguish, and mental suffering. So like in Paticca Samuppada, the basic, the first one is avijja paccaya sankhara, ignorance of Dhamma, is the cause of suffering. So when there's vijja, or understanding, then the suffering ceases. So like with malaria, I was suffering from malaria when operating from avijja. I don't want this disease. I can't practice meditation, like creating a sense of fear, because you think of people getting malaria, they die, they go crazy, it affects the brain, and you start imagining all possibilities of total misery and ruining your life or ending it, and then then you're creating this suffering. But then with vijja, with understanding, you stop doing that. Malaria is like this, and it wasn't that. It wasn't as miserable as I made out it was when I was coming from avijja, or ignorance. When I opened to it, it wasn't. I could bear that the physical discomfort. And then within a year, the malaria seemed to go away. I give you kind of quinine and chloroquine tablets and things like that. I had these recurring cycles for about a year, and then it stopped.
That's my thought. When you use the word mindfulness and consciousness, are they the same?
They're the same, yeah. Like you've got, there's a teaching called, one of my favorite teachings is of the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. And because there is the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned, there is an escape from the born, the created, the form, the condition. So this is in the Udana, And you can imagine anything born, created, form, and condition. You can fantasize it's reasonable conditions or total nonsense or anything, but the unborn you can't imagine. Try to imagine the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. And you can imagine anything created, born, formed, conditioned. That's the thinking mind, the sensory world. Sensory consciousness through the senses is earth, fire, water, and air element. Then the immeasurables are space and consciousness. Space has no quality other than spaciousness. It's not beautiful or ugly or red or blue or male or female. It's like this. Consciousness has no boundary. Now we tend to think that consciousness is inside our body, like my consciousness is in this form. But consciousness doesn't have any form, it's immeasurable. So what is that? Then the forms are in consciousness, like the body. Our bodies are in consciousness rather than consciousness in the body, because consciousness isn't dependent upon a physical form. It's not something that depends on anything other than being itself. And so mindfulness, in the Buddhist term, Satipatthana, is the gateway to realize that. Like otherwise, we're just caught in the momentum of habits, of cultural conditioning, of the ego, religious conditioning. Like when you were born, when you were a newborn baby, you were fully conscious in a human form with the intelligence of an infant, for survival. But you didn't have an ego like a newborn baby does. It doesn't see itself as Thai or Indian or English. It doesn't see itself as male or female. The body has to be one or the other, but the infant, doesn't think of itself as anything other than what it is in the present. It's survival mechanism, so when it's hungry it cries and so forth, and it's tired it sleeps. And then we get conditioned, so your mother usually is the biggest influence in the early years of your life. And she tells you, you're born in Thailand, you're Thai, you're a boy, you're a girl, and you acquire a sense of you perceive yourself according to your class or your caste, your gender, your appearance, whether you're attractive or unattractive, or that we create a sense of our self-worth through this conditioning process. What is unconditioned is mindfulness consciousness. That's not male or female, it's not beautiful or ugly. It's this here, knowing. It's knowing that. So we tend to think that knowing is through perceiving things, giving names to everything. So qualities, right, wrong, good and bad, true and false, heaven and hell, and this makes what we call the real world. But it's not the real world. It's a world created by human conditioning. So the mindfulness is the way that we begin to see through the conditioning process. It's not that conditioning is wrong. It's not like trying to get rid of it, but to no longer be limited by the conditioning that we have received. So the liberation isn't like suddenly become nobody. It kind of become invisible and kind of transcend into a spiritual realm way above the world that we were in before. But we understand. We have this knowing, understanding through wisdom. Wisdom is through understanding, not through labeling or qualifying or defining or making any complications around the way things are. It's noticing that, in the simple terms that the Buddha used, Sape Sankara Anicca, all conditions are impermanent, all Dhamma is not that, it's anatta. So this gives you, in terms of present problems, planetary problems, climate change, overpopulation, destruction of the environment, and so forth, these come through, through this ignorance of Dhamma. And, so just human greed, can destroy forests and pollute the planet and so forth, so that we create wars, endless wars and conflicts. So people are, the world is in such a state now because it believes in these delusions that that humans have created. And so that's one reason why I think mindfulness practices are beginning to be recognized as valuable, because otherwise, what are we going to do, in the future? Just create more complications and more pollution and more problems, because then we don't know how to do anything else with the thinking mind. So you always see we have an enemy. We've got to have some other country, some other place that we designate as an enemy, the cause of suffering, or corruption, and maybe we blame people for things. We create endless conflicts in ourselves. We turn our critical minds inward. We see things we don't like about. We have bad thoughts or bad feelings or bad memories, and we feel, we want to get rid of them, or we're not good because we have these bad thoughts. We create a sense of a personality as a kind of permanent condition. When actually with mindfulness, your personality changes according to the conditions. When things are going well, your personality is like this. When things are going all wrong, it's like this. When you're being praised, you feel like this. When you're being criticized, you feel like this. But one is aware all the time when you're being praised. You're feeling happy, you like to be praised. When you're being criticized, you're unhappy. That knowing is conscious mindfulness, knowing the way it is. And so, as we begin to realize that, recognize that, that's our refuge, rather than depending on being praised and then being completely upset when we're criticized. So you're transcending the worldly Dhammas. You're not getting rid of them, because they're still going to be, an arhat. A Buddha was, when you read about the Buddha's life, people trying to kill him and blame him for things he didn't do, and he didn't get out of the 8 worldly Dhammas, to be kind of transcending the whole lot, living and in a peaceful way in a society. But he was able to deal with the jealousies of other monks, of the way society was in India at that time. He wasn't blaming, he wasn't criticizing, but he still felt, he realized, he knew what was happening, but he didn't create suffering.
I can be caught in a continuum of thought, and it feels like absolute reality, and then I suddenly become aware that it's just thought. But beyond that, I have found I need to also understand the nature of thought, not just as thought. It's important for me to have that integrated, along with the awareness of thought, is the awareness of the nature of thought, its impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and so on. It needs to be in the mix.
Yeah, well, that's where mindfulness is. Like thinking moves very quickly. So I am a human being. That's gone. So thinking is one thing, but then it creates feeling. Like I am a good monk. Creates a feeling, or I'm not a good person. Or think in terms of right and wrong, good and bad, whether people like me or don't like me, whether I'm appreciated or not appreciated, and whether I'm being criticized or praised. The words themselves are very brief, but the feeling they arouse lingers. Like feeling this is a feeling realm. It's not an intellectual realm we're living in. Like the thinking mind doesn't feel. So being logical and reasonable is a kind of skillful use of thinking. But people who think all the time, who rationalize life, don't feel very much. They can be quite cold and distant because they're attached to being reasonable, logical, and fair. They can tell you how things should be, and they're right. But at this moment, this is the way it is. It's not a reasonable moment or a logical moment. It's a feeling moment. You're sitting there like this. You're feeling temperature. You're feeling comfortable, uncomfortable, and then somebody says you're a very good meditator, and you feel, then you feel kind of proud of yourself, or you've got it all wrong, and you feel doubt. So things can, people, in monastic life recently, a woman I know comes to visit me in Ratnawan. She travels around a lot. She goes to different teachers, and they tell her different things, how to practice, and she gets very confused because somebody says, "Oh no, you're not practicing right. You have to do it like this." And then she gets caught in doubt, and then she goes to another teacher, and he or she tells her something else, and then she feels insecure again. So she comes to me, wanting me to affirm that she, and so where my advice to her is to be aware of that. Other teachers teach from the way they've learned. They've done through different methods or different techniques or different religions, so that that's what they teach. That's what they know. If you've learned how to play the violin, you can't really teach somebody to play the piano. It's not that the violin is superior. It's not saying it's better than the piano, but it's different technique. And so it's not that these teachers are wrong, that they're deluded, but what you can do is, be aware of how they affect you. So, and even in the Thai forest tradition, you get very strong opinions from different teachers. You've got to do this, you've got to get jhanas, you've got to get fourth jhana before you can do vipassana, you've got to, all these kind of imperatives and commandments. They're not wrong. It's not that they're lying to you or anything. But what you can know is that when somebody says you've got to get something you don't have, you feel like this. And if I say, you don't need to get jhanas, how does that affect you? Or samatha vipassana, some people really, you shouldn't do samatha, you should just do vipassana, and others say you've got to develop samatha first and then vipassana. These are words. They affect you, if you're meditating through techniques or through various methods, then somebody says, no, you've got it all wrong. What you can know at that moment is you feel like this, doubt or confusion like this. This way you're letting everything teach you. You're not trying to figure out which teacher is absolutely right, are the others all wrong. It's not about right and wrong anymore, but about mindfulness. So like Goenka, they when they came to England, Mother Sayama was a disciple of Ubakin in Burma. She decided all the vibrations at the Open Hole Buddhist Center in Oxford were wrong because Ajahn Chah and Mahasi Sayadaw had been there before. So all her students believed that. So they left in the middle of a 10-day retreat. They all left Oakenhole, which was a Buddhist center in Oxford, because they believed Mother Sayama, where, this is about vibrations. Somebody believe in vibrations. It's not that I'm saying it's wrong, but I don't believe in vibrations. But I know when people talk about vibrations, I know how I'm feeling. And that's what I trust, is awareness I trust. And then, like to me, the Four Noble Truths has been my practice, because I found that I could relate to that right away, that there's suffering. And it seemed, it wasn't like I have to believe in God or some kind of, I believe in Dhamma, some kind of metaphysical force in the universe that I can't find or don't know, I can't see or hear or smell, taste, touch, or conceive of it. Dhamma can become like a metaphysical abstraction in the mind. But the Buddha was talking about suffering, which is quite immediate, this feeling of wanting, I'm imperfect, I'm a confused person, I need to practice meditation to get enlightenment, I'm not good enough the way I am, I've got to really work hard and meditate a lot to get rid of my defilements, my bad moods, my anger, and achieve enlightenment, So that's how we all started. Most people meditate when they start meditation because they feel some lack, some kind of something missing, or they've got to change their attitude or become something else than what they are now. And then, then the Buddha points to suffering as the First Noble Truth. And when you think about yourself as imperfect and not good enough, when you observe that sense of I'm not good enough, that's suffering. I suffer because I'm not good enough. So there's, you begin to see that the very directness of the Buddha's teaching light shows dukkha, or suffering, as a noble truth, which takes you to nibbana, or peace, or enlightenment, whatever words you choose to use. So, this is a kind of compassion of the Buddha, taking something quite ordinary, that everybody, whether you're the king or the queen or the beggar on the street, suffering pretty much the same for all of them. And now we suffer a lot when our computers pack up or our car doesn't start. They didn't have that kind of suffering at the time of the Buddha. So we have more kind of
new opportunities,
experiences of suffering in our complicated technology and demands for, democracy and freedom and personal attainments and achievements, whereas at the time of the Buddha, life was much more simple. It's agrarian societies is based on kings and queens and things like that. And now it's all about we're all equal, and we don't have caste or class identities. We're all the same ideals of freedom, that are common to modern thinking conditioning, like democracy and freedom and equality. These are ideals. These are high-minded thoughts. So that's and then the reality, being an American, you're brought up in a society where we're all equal, but that that's not really the case. In the here and now, because we all want to be better we want to be winners and not losers. And we want, on an ideal level, we're all equal. But then the hypocrisy is that the reality is that we're not equal in terms of sankharas. We're equal in terms of consciousness. Consciousness is unifying. It doesn't choose, special, it doesn't have favorites or special privileges for certain types of people. Consciousness is unitive, but all the rest of sankharas are all different. Like we all look different. Just sitting here, we're not all like tin soldiers off the assembly line, which would be tendency to be more equal if we were. So, then we think ideals they're beautiful, so you can create perfect ideals like how society should be. But the Dhamma is here and now. It's not about how things should be, it's the way things are. All conditions are impermanent. So this is the path of liberation. Is not trying to make to create everybody fit into this ideal, but to awaken to Dhamma the way it is, and so the differences are not kind of attached to and believed in as our reality. So then from that comes compassion, metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha. They call oftentimes translated as divine abodes. They come from that purity of consciousness. Like you don't create, you can have metta practices which you kind of say, impose this kind of loving kindness on all sentient beings. You can say that, But then you have like having metta for Donald Trump right now is not the same as metta for Edward Lewis. But in terms of consciousness, it's the same. It's non-aversion. And having metta for devils, for angels, for criminals, for beggars, for royalty, for presidents, for politicians, for men, for women, for all creatures, comes from the purity of consciousness. The consciousness naturally is love, it's loving kindness.
Okay.
Because on the discriminative level, we can have ideals of we should love everybody and have compassion for the suffering of humanity and so forth. That's an ideal. But what do you feel right now? In terms of yourself, in terms of the people you're living with, in terms of the society you're living in, is like this. And so then you're not. It's like this isn't like discrimination. It's allowing things to be what they are. That's metta. That's what metta really amounts to. It's accepting of everything: the good, the bad, the right, the wrong, the high, the low. And then karuna comes from. So like an arahant isn't just gonna say, well, those people suffering doesn't make any difference, all things are impermanent. But you feel sadness or you feel compassion, karuna, for the suffering of others that you see. So you read it, I remember one time reading a headline about some place in Africa where thousands of children died of starvation. And I didn't know anybody in Africa, but I felt compassion just reading the headline. Because it arose naturally, not to be trying to be compassionate. Because that perception of 500 children dying of starvation anywhere is the feeling is like this. Sense of karuna, mudita, the beauty of life, beauty of nature, the beauty of others. These are like joy. Mudita is joyful. Compassion, joy, and equanimity. Upekkha. Then upekkha is the very nature of consciousness. And in the scriptures, this is never mentioned very much in Theravada. And I don't know why, because it's in the scriptures, but they talk about, it's called Vinyanang Nanidasanang Nanantang Sapadopama, which is the consciousness, invisible, infinite being all around. So it's like the deathless consciousness. In translations of it, they are called unestablished consciousness.
Manifest.
But consciousness this is important because we see consciousness is limited to a form, and that's not the way it really is. So I encourage you to change, to reflect more. And consciousness is your body in consciousness than consciousness inside your body. It's more accurate when you're even on the thinking level.
Yeah, I discussed it with one great scholar. He mentioned you are talking of Advaita Vedanta. This is not teaching Buddha. That there is pure consciousness. Buddha doesn't say anywhere there is pure consciousness. And he's always talking of sense sphere consciousnesses.
It's like in the five khandas, it's the sensory. Like consciousness arises when the organ of the eye contacts the object and eye consciousness.
That's right.
That's impermanent. But unestablished consciousness, you're not establishing consciousness on objects.
When I mentioned that, he said it is an enigma of Theravada Buddhism. That was the reply.
But it is. They don't. I learned this. Vinyanaga Dasana.
Yeah, we've heard it so many times.
From a Parsi who he was from India, but he was Parsi from Bombay. Firoz Mehta lived in England. He's a philosopher, kind of a brilliant kind of man of very many talents, and he kept in the Buddhist Society summer school in England. He kept talking about Vinyanaga Dasana, and that's the only time I've ever heard it being used was from a Parsi. and yet it's in the scriptures.
Yeah.
But
there are two places.
But with Vipassana, they emphasize impermanence of consciousness.
Yeah, I talked to I mentioned about Bhikkhu Narananda in Sri Lanka, who gives an exposition on this as non-manifestive consciousness, and he talks that this is the consciousness in which an arhat abides when he uses the word when he is experiencing cessation of sense sphere consciousness. But others, great scholars say this is actually Advaita Vedanta, Ramana Maharshi and others talk about it, and you're trying to mix it up and
no, they've got it right. Because it's in the Theravada.
It's a two places, in two suttas it comes. They say there are 84,000 suttas, so two suttas it's written.
Because if consciousness was impermanent, what's left? There's nothing. Just annihilation. Because consciousness right now, it isn't discriminating. If to discriminate, you have to start thinking. But consciousness has no beginning or end. Has experience here and now. Where does it begin or end? Where your thoughts begin and end, or your feelings, or your sensory, when you're looking or listening, sounds begin and end, and so forth. But consciousness has no beginning or ending. This is the reality of experience here and now. So, and then can one sankhara, if consciousness is a sankhara, then how can one sankhara know another? And so mindfulness, is the path to the deathless, apamado amadavit, path to the deathless. Mindfulness is here and now. It's not something that is. You're always mindful, whether you're ignorant or not, whether you're aware.
Many times you get lost in the thoughts, so say then mindfulness is not present.
You're thinking, but you're not using wisdom or mindfulness. But mindfulness is being you're conscious all the time. Whether you're ignorant, whether you're crazy,
conscious, certainly, we are always.
Whether you're drunk or whatever state you happen to be in, the consciousness doesn't stop. When you're asleep, there's still consciousness. Dreaming is consciousness. Waking is consciousness. And in the waking state, then this Four Noble Truths is very skillful means to investigate the reality of this experience of suffering, of unsatisfactoriness, which takes you to this ultimate realization of the deathless Amata Dhamma. And, you know, we call it like in deathless reality, or what is beyond birth and death, and then the what is available right now is consciousness. So when you're just aware, you know, there's attention, there's non-thinking. It's empty. It's not. You're not creating. You're not looking at things and creating, naming or defining anything. But there's awareness. And as you begin to trust that, it's peaceful. The nature of consciousness is peace. It can be seen as love, because it includes everything. It's not discriminating. I love this one more than that one. Then we start thinking about that love is more a romantic image of liking, or liking something better than something else. But in terms of metta accepts, the mosquitoes, the flies, the criminals, as well as the angels, the devatas, all the arahants and the saints. And what is that in terms of the here and now? And it can only be this awareness. Because I'm not creating a person, but I'm certainly conscious, aware. And as I affirm that more and more, I begin to appreciate it. Because at first it doesn't seem like anything. Because we always want things we're always seeking objects of sense. We're thinking, we're identifying with our feelings, with Vedana, with feeling, with our likes and dislikes, and our social conditioning, cultural conditioning. But in terms of mindfulness here and now, there's no culture in it. It's not absent, but I'm not thinking in terms of cultural conditioning or ego, but it's certainly present, knowing it's like this. So then, what is that? And at first, I began, it's consciousness knowing itself. You can't get beyond it. You can't transcend consciousness. You can send consciousness out to objects again, looking at somebody or listening to something outside.
This issue of consciousness knowing itself, intellectually and on the basis of understanding of consciousness being an independent, unmanifestive consciousness which exists, it sounds okay and intellectually understanding. But in practice, sense inputs are always available. Even if we close eyes and meditate, the sound of silence is always there. So it seems as if the mind is always going out and out. It's not really getting in unless we make some kind of an effort or what, I don't know really. Sometimes it happens that mind sinks in.
Yeah, it's more relaxing.
Yeah.
It's total letting go. It's effortless.
sometimes it happens, mind just sinks and then there's nothing, no awareness of, but there's no awareness of sense-door perceptions.
Right.
So it seems the awareness is not there, and then you wake up, you feel very light, but what happened during that interval is not known.
But you know the present moment.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Trust
true.
that knowing. Because consciousness is knowing, knowingness.
That's true.
And that's it. But it's non-discriminative. So it's peaceful. And peace sometimes is, when we're looking for bliss or something that is, like so many Westerners especially looking for bliss, some kind of ecstatic experience rather than just peace. Because at first, emotionally, we're not primed for enlightenment or for peace. We're emotionally want something
Excitement.
exciting or interesting or blissful, in terms of kind of ecstatic bliss. Or we're primed for misery or depression or revenge. And so the emotional habits are conditioned for extremities. So at first, when you first recognize consciousness knowing itself, it doesn't seem like anything worthwhile. In terms of a value system or emotionally, it can be, you can think this is boring. Or this can't be it. It's too simple. It's stupid. You're not even being intelligent. It's kind of like a cow in a pasture. But as you begin to rest there, you're wearing out your emotional reactions to it, aversion to it, or doubting it. Then it's the path. It's the way of not suffering. Very clear. But it's not what one expects. So, I was certainly expecting something else. Because, in meditation, I've had very blissful experiences where, and then through concentration practices, and then you remember those blissful experiences, and that's what you want. And Lupa kept saying, forget about it. Once you...
Sorry to interrupt, Paul. There's going to be some noise because that channel is around.
Oh, good.
You'll need to do a spot of drilling to destroy part of your bathroom, but it's for the sake of water. So please carry on, but if the noise gets loud, it shouldn't last very long.
Well, we're there.
ที่ไม่ได้เสียงมากสดใสแต่เรา
But,
Thank you for the teaching.
I always pick up new lessons every time.
But you think, I think, I've said this so many times, for years. And when I get over it, I think, I just keep saying the same thing. But then, when situations like this arise, it comes out new. It's not like I'm just remembering things and trying to repeat them. It's coming from a different place than memory.
Sumedho Pama. We need to reoffer the name.
Later.
We used to feed peanuts to the elephants in the zoo.
Peanuts is considered healthy fats now. It's
Really?
yes. I think for elderly people, even for myself, a lot of people are recommending low carbohydrates and healthy fats. Low carbohydrates means less flour, less sugar, because it's actually promote insulin resistance. When we keep having sugar, then our insulin is not we keep gaining weight kind of. Then the healthy fat means fats from nuts, the avocado, because the omega-3 and omega-6 and coconut oil are like the monosaturated, like olive oil is polysaturated. All these actually doesn't get stored in the blood vessel, whereas the saturated fats like animal fat, they get stored in the blood vessel. So not only for elephant, but also.
Reminds me of what I was talking about before. Different Dhamma teachers. This is the way. This is the way. This is the way. Same way with nutrition. Oh, this is the way. This is the way. This is the way. People have different ideas about what's best.
Yeah, well, thinking's like that. You think my way is the right way. And then, I kept thinking, I was very attached to Ajahn Chah. And I kept thinking you have to believe everything Ajahn Chah said. And his way is the only way. And then I started observing that. That's thinking about I trust this awareness of thinking rather than what I'm actually thinking. And then I advise you to be aware of thinking. If it's intelligent thinking, right thinking, it's still thinking. And that's why you can't figure out nibbana or consciousness through thinking. The most you can say about consciousness, universal consciousness, and like teachers like Luang Por Chah, at the end of his teaching life, said knowing, not knowing. It's like you don't know anything, but there's knowing itself. Knowing itself is where we rest, is where we find peace. And then knowing everything about everything, which we think is omniscient, omniscient knowing is an ideal, but to try to know everything about everything is impossible. But you can know everything, all conditions are impermanent. All conditions, all Dhamma is not self. This is knowing the way it is. And in that it's peaceful and it's compassionate. It's not blind, you're not indifferent and kind of zombie-like or just transcendent above it all. You're right in the middle of the inferno, but you're not being burned by it. Yesterday, they were repairing the water system, and they left without putting the water system back into the bucket. So yesterday, Ajahn the Soka had to bring up buckets of water to my bathroom. So that's what they're doing. They're trying to repair the water system in my bathroom so I can take a bath.
Good. Enjoy it.
There's so much confusion because of the 500s, where consciousness is impermanent. But consciousness is about the body, the states of mind, consciousness that it goes out to sense objects is impermanent. But then they talk about the deathless, amata dhamma, deathless reality. What is that? Is that unconscious or lacking consciousness? Because you know the deathless, and knowing the deathless is conscious awareness. So it can't be consciousness packs up and dies. It ceases when we move from seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking. But if we're mindful, just aware. So they talk about opanayika dhamma, where you're looking here rather than Kubajans, they point to usually the heart area. Meaning you're not seeking objects anymore. You're not seeking thoughts or feelings. You're not annihilating them, but you're not taking an interest going out to distract yourself through the senses, through sense objects. But being fully aware of here and now. Sanketiko, Akaliko, Ehipasiko, Opanayiko, Bhajatang, to be known individually.
The way it is explained, Bhante, in the descriptions by Bhikkhu Nyananda and others, is that in the experience of Nibbana, all senses are not operating and the person is alive with Anidassana Vijnana. That's what keeps him alive. So he's aware that senses are not operating.
Well, the senses operate, but the thing that changes is from ignorance to wisdom. Like in these Zen things, in the beginning when you're ignorant, the trees are trees and the streams are streams and the mountains are mountains. And then as you practice, then they become something else. And after seeing them, the trees are back in trees and mountains are mountains. And so it's like things become normal. You're not experiencing kind of something, that is different from anyone else, but you understand it. And so, like you recognize the timelessness, the reality of awareness in which sankharas can operate. So your refuge is in the awareness. Then the body still gets old, gets sick and dies. Vipaka karma, habit patterns come up, like memories. At my age, I have a lot of memories. And the other day, I was just remembering all of the names of children I went to primary school who I hadn't thought about for years.
It's amazing.
Just, I don't know where this just suddenly came out. Memories of children, when I was about 10 years old. I went to primary school. Suddenly all their names started popping up. Where did that come from? It's Vipaka Kamma. But I could create a scenario about it. If there's some kind of strong connection, make it into personal, or is it just rising, ceasing of conditions? And then, I noticed and just the lack of interest in things that I used to find interesting. Being a monk is just so natural. It's not like you're trying to keep all the rules and be a good monk. It's just the kind of lack of interest in worldly conditions that I used to find interesting. And it's not like I'm trying to stop it, and be a serious monk in some ideal way. It's just no longer does the conditioned realm interest me in the way that it used to. What?
It falls away.
Falls away, yes.
And sometimes I question myself, well, shouldn't I be more interested in this, because I see other people. But those other people are much younger. And, now I have where I can get endless movies from the U.S. on TV. Wow. I'm not interested in watching. I'm trying to tell myself to do it.
Yeah, just lose interest in it. What's the problem? What's it all about? Like in Ratanawan, where I live, it's a really nice place to live. And I have nothing to do, I'm not kind of responsible for anything. Ajahn Yadadhamma was very supportive, so I have this kind of perfect environment. And I appreciate it because I can spend hours just looking at the trees. And then I reflect, you keep reflecting because I really enjoy that. Because you realize that's it's still got a physical form. Mentally, I'm still alive. I'm not interested in it. I have this book, this thick, wise wisdom teachings through the ages. And I kept being interested in wisdom teachings. Sangha, monks get all interested in this and that. And you hear the grapevine, the gossip, what's happening and who's disrobing. And I used to be really interested in the gossip. And
one is likely to ordain in this pansa.
I think Ajahn also mentioned
I would not stay with me, but I have to perform my civic duty of election. Today's election day.
You come up to vote?
เขตนั้น
เข็มหนึ่งครับ
เดี๋ยวพูดเป็นจัง
เป็นป้องปรามเป็นวังเลยดุสิตครับดุสิต
Have you voted yet?
not yet because we left home quite early. I will do it later.
Any come again tomorrow?
No, not tomorrow.
Meaning?
He is not here tomorrow. Okay.
ขออนุญาตครับเป็น good friend กันนะครับคุณสุวิทย์
You look so good. Thank you. Good to see you. Nice surprise.
You must come again.
To Samui?
Say hello to your wife.
Yes, I will.
No. I told her to listen to Dhamma. He's our driver.
My driver. New driver from the Philippines.
Come closer.
He is a Mormon. It would need a driver who can speak English, so he can add in playlist.
Is he a new driver?
Excuse me?
Is he a new driver?
Yes.
Yes.
Works well.
Driving in Bangkok.
That's easy.
You must be very busy. How much longer will you be in Thailand?
We'll be leaving on Friday. Tomorrow we go to Ubon. Tomorrow.
talk about metta and unconditional love. Taught in Vipassana. I always thought that no matter what you do, I still love you, and boundless love. I'm sitting here with you, and I realize it's love that's not based on conditions at all. Unconditional means conditions never arise. The basis for the love. The love is.
And that's consciousness. Love is consciousness. Because we're all connected. You know, it's when you love some more than others, that means you like this person better than that person. And that's personal choice, you know, that's discrimination. So that's liking or disliking. But love in the terms of unconditioned love or metta is consciousness. That accepts everything. Like right now, just being mindful and accepting everything, the noise, the situation, the personal condition. It's like this, it's totally non-discriminatory. But it's not like I'm thinking I love this or that. It's natural, it's Dhammarama, it's the way things really are, it's Dhamma. Where I think I love everybody, and then that becomes personal. And that becomes more like an ideal.
Yeah.
Because on a personal level, you like some people better than others. That's just the way. But in terms of awareness, it's not about liking or disliking or liking others better than some others, than some people more than others. And it has room for anger, hatred, jealousy, fear, in which conditions arise and cease. And when you trust that, then that's like real metta. It's coming from the purity of consciousness rather than from personal conditioning, cultural conditioning, personal preferences, opinions, views, and so forth.
Yes, because from my own point of view, saying, well, I love you in spite of the fact I know you've done all these, you did this terrible thing, but I still love you. I'm giving you a waiver. But that waiver is impermanent.
And it's an ideal kind of situation. Because you can't like something that's unlikable. You know, it's impossible to, you can say, I love everything. But, you know, in terms of liking and disliking, you can't like something that's unlikable. But you can accept everything with awareness, not through idealism, but through awareness.
That's the same as open-heartedness.
So suddenly, you know, you think about Donald Trump, who I personally find unlikable.
Cannot be liked.
But in terms of metta, I accept him the way he is. You know, it's like I'm not making a problem or coming from personal, believing my personal reaction. Because the world is like this. You know, people think America is really lost the plot, or like what's happening in the UK with Brexit. It's pathetic, you know. You think of this total mess they made out of leaving the European Union. and you don't like it. But in terms of metta, that's the way it is. And you realize that the world's changing according to conditions. It's not anybody's fault. It's not, you can't blame, you can find enemies or people to blame, but that's not metta. This is the way the world is, it's changing. And the United States, its kind of role in the world, or Britain's position as a powerful country, it's impermanent. Things are changing. Politics are very impermanent, very unstable. And today they're having an election here in Thailand. What's going to happen to Thailand? Is this a fair election? And you have personal views and opinions about it, but it's the way it is. This you can know. And to think it shouldn't be like this is creating into a problem. Accepting that doesn't mean approving. It's not like I approve of the way it is, but it's just acknowledging that at this point it's like this.
Sense of this is the way it is right now. Because I haven't seen a flicker from you as a response to the and I've been watching. Everybody else, there's something someplace. Now I'm less cognizant of that because I'm sitting here in this environment. In a different environment, I'd be much more aware and probably some reactivity. But I see for yourself. That is it.
In Ratnawan, in Makuti, there's a peacock that has nested in trees right outside my windows of my kuti, and it's very beautiful peacock, but it has the most awful sound. And when Ajahn Asoko went back to Switzerland for 2 weeks, usually he chases the peacock away and throws firecrackers at it, trying to get rid of it, trying to discourage it, but it always comes back. So when Ajahn Asoko was away for 2 weeks, I began to feel quite fond of this peacock. That kept me company, this squawking sound. I didn't feel any aversion to it.
Yeah.
Everybody else away. It's really.
I realized that I'm 91 years old, and for me, it's like I don't want to waste any time. Anytime I've got the opportunity to listen to Dhamma, I'm going to take it.
It's a bathroom connected to my room.
Maybe Bhante, you could once again explain to us how does one rest in the sense of the mind knowing itself or the consciousness being aware of itself. Does one have to do anything resting or relaxing or laying and then contemplate or just be aware of whatever is happening?
Be aware of whatever is happening. So sometimes the thinking mind will stop, and then the vipak will come, a result will come.
Something or the other keeps on happening in the body, especially the sound of silence doesn't go. It remains all the time, all the time.
It's the same as consciousness. Sound of silence. It's not a sound.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a sound.
And people say it's a
I
sound.
experimented with closing it.
Right.
It doesn't work.
It's an unnameable.
Yeah.
Like a sound. Like you can plug up your ears and still hear it. You can still hear it even with the.
It's really there, but that is also there.
So it's a very good reference.
Yeah, certainly.
Because it's emptiness, and you don't create it. It's not something. It's entertaining, not like interesting. But it's always here and now.
But it keeps on changing.
Yeah, and I used to challenge myself to listening. First I began to notice it only in peaceful meditations, and then I started noticing it when drills were going on, or chainsaws, the lawnmower. They were mowing the lawns at Amravati, and I began to notice it behind when you hear music. It's consciousness, really. You can call it whatever you want, but it is useful because it gives you, it's always available. And then when you're resting in the sound of silence, you're not creating yourself. You're not a person anymore.
What happens with me, Bhante, is when I sit and rest in the sound of silence, the body awareness also starts automatically.
You're aware of the
What's
way
happening in the body
sensations.
So it seems the sense consciousness is operating. So the statement that the consciousness is aware of itself, it seems there is something more in it.
Yeah, it's also relaxing. So that a lot of tensions that you hold in your body,
that's true.
You start relaxing. Because life is pretty stressful. So you kind of, you create tension when you're like going to school, for example. I remember, having to study for exams and you're always putting forth this effort, and you're in a competitive society where, you're always competing against somebody else, and you're comparing yourself with ideals of your age, and even and this carried over into monasticism, become a Buddhist monk and in a different country like Thailand, and with a cultural, different culture, but my American habit pattern, I took with me into the Sangha, and then, so you're trying to be, compete with who can chant the Patimokkha the best, or, learn Thai, and all these things, you're trying to create, you create a sense of your self-importance as a foreign monk in a Thai Sangha. But the awareness is what I trust. So I could use that, these tendencies, American habit patterns, cultural conditioning. I began to, see it in terms of object rather than as something I operate from anymore. So not operating from conditioned attitudes or American cultural conditioning or even Buddhism. You kind of see that as another condition. So you're letting go of everything to where there's just Dhamma, there's just reality itself. Because, you become a Buddhist monk and you train yourself with the Vinaya, and then you become a Buddhist monk. And that has a strong sense of self-involvement in it. But the whole point of becoming a Buddhist monk is liberation, not just changing your uniform, your costume into a ochre robe and a shaven head. But it's for awareness. Like when you ordain to realize Nibbana. So I point that out to monks like Thai monks that come and visit me, newly ordained monks, or the Sangha at Ratanawan. I said, you're ordained to realize Nibbana. That's the whole purpose of this form. It's not to become a teacher or get a title from the king, or you can use the life for kind of personal achievements. But then that's kind of missing the point, because when you take the Upasampada, the higher ordination, the whole point is to realize Nibbana. What is that? What is realizing Nibbana? As a person, can you realize Nibbana? Can a personality realize? No. It's awareness. As a Ajahn Sumedho realizing Nibbana, that doesn't make sense. There's, or a Buddhist monk realizing Nibbana. These are kind of ways of talking. But the reality is Nibbana is here and now. And then the whole form is about helping you to be mindful. Using the form for awareness rather than for self-identity. So even, you let go of everything, including Buddhism. You don't get rid of it, but suddenly you're not limited to any form or any perception.
Speaking of form, I'm wondering if your form needs a bit of rest. Well, Ajahn Panya's room is available. If you just want to have a lay down and just relax.
They'll be finished soon.
Well, we're not finding the practice easy, so I don't know. And it's already 11 o'clock. Sometime. Tomorrow is of business, this afternoon of business. I'm concerned about your energy.
Yeah. We have to move along as well.
Okay. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Okay, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
Go down to the bathroom.
He still want to talk. He still want to talk.
เขาคุยอยู่
คุย
คุยอยู่ Yeah, he does.
วันนี้สนุกวันนี้อาจารย์หลวงพ่อสนุก